What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and one and only James Williams, Dog Waters, and I'm back. Hopefully, everybody's doing good. Let me check a few things here. I won't be on for super long because I got an interview coming up in a little while. But I wanted to touch on some of the topics in the news. And quite frankly, there's a lot going on. Yesterday, I did a video where I talked about the Tesla dealerships and what was going on with Tesla and how people were being treated that were Tesla owners. And I find it very interesting that liberals who bought Teslas, who, quite frankly, each and every last one of them believed in climate change and the climate change agenda, have found themselves in a situation where they're coming under attack. I personally believe that is extremely interesting. Welcome to the chat, Robert G. Marlene, how have you been, Marlene? Haven't seen you in a while. Hopefully everyone is doing well. But we're going to dig into the news. So we have multiple things going on in the news right now. Excuse me. One of the things is we have this new attack launched on, where's my wallet? It must be in the car. This new attack launched on the Trump campaign via The Atlantic, via literally targeting the military of the Trump administration, Pete Hegseth, Christy Nome, Tulsi Gabbard. And I think it's amazing, guys. Don't you think it's amazing that this leak happened right before they had a scheduled appearance before an intel committee? I think it's absolutely amazing how that just played out. You know, there's a leak that comes out from quote unquote Signal, and then all of a sudden there's an intel committee hearing to where they can be grilled in front of the committee and they can call for Pete Hegseth to step down. And I said it in my video yesterday that it doesn't make much sense. Why is everything so shaky? Why is everything so shaky? Why are you shaking? What's going on? Stop being so shaky. Let's see if we can fix the shakiness. You're still kind of shaky. All right, that's better. Greetings, everybody. I thought it was peculiar because when you look at this circumstance, this Pete Hegseth thing, I think it's interesting that the timing of it all. And when you really look at it and you wonder how this played out and you read the articles, something's off about this. When I say something's off about this, I mean something is significantly off about this. So we have this Signal chat group, and this reporter is added to the chat group, and the reporter stays in a group, and quote unquote, there's classified information that's shared with the reporter. But when you really think about it, men and those types and women in those types of positions, they don't set up those things themselves. To even think that any one of those individuals sat there and said, okay, I'm going to start this Signal group for this chat, and I'm going to invite all these people. That don't make no sense. To think that Tulsi Gabbard has time to sit there and set up a Signal group, to think that Pete Hegseth has time to sit up and start a Signal group makes zero sense. So when I back out 100,000 feet and take a look at it, the only thing that kind of makes sense is, number one of their employees set up the group, and each of those people have assistants. And you would have to believe that each of those assistants who, excuse me, guys, let me get rid of this guy out of here. Each of those assistants that, let's say it's 5 different organizations: Department of Defense, Department of Homeland Security, Department of, I don't know, name 5 different organizations. And there's 5 different heads of each organization. Each of those heads has someone who's assigned to do tasks. So you would have to believe that one of those people who set up that group invited him in. But you would also have to believe that simultaneously, while all 5 groups of all 5 assistants, out of all 5 of those people, nobody checked to see who was invited to the group. It would mean that if you extrapolate that out, that would mean that all of them, out of all 5, all of them are compromised. That doesn't add up. You may have one compromised person who decided to invite this reporter into the group, but somebody should have caught that. That doesn't add up. It doesn't make any sense. So it leads me to the next conclusion, that the transcript of their conversation was leaked to this guy. And then this reporter claimed that he was inside of the chat group because that's the only way he could be safe. How else could you disclose the leaked information to you other than saying you were invited into the chat group? Now, somebody will come out and say, well, they verified that, the chat group is real. Yeah, the chat group may have been real, but it just doesn't add up. Now, if we're saying that the actual individual who they're proclaiming invited him into the group himself, and we're taking responsibility for the error, then that means that something's going on with that guy. But none of that makes any sense to me. It just doesn't. It doesn't make any sense, because then you have to say, well, bro, what you doing being friends with a reporter who's anti-Trump in the manner in which that guy was anti-Trump, and you within the Trump administration? None of it adds up. One of the only other angles that adds up to me is, and I'll be honest with you, and I don't like to project this level of strategy upon people because I don't necessarily know that people are this strategic. The one thing that would make sense is that Donald Trump did it himself. That would make sense. That would make all the sense in the world. And then when you look at the information that was leaked during the conversation, it was information talking about the European leaders as it pertains to Zelensky and the Ukraine. So when you go from that angle, it makes a little bit of sense, because the leak was saying that, hey, we tired of Europe with their foolishness supporting Zelensky, and we're going to lead them on their own, basically. That would make sense, that you wanted to have a leak that targeted and exposed the people in Europe and the leadership in Europe. That would make all the sense in the world. And then it would make sense how it's been jumped on and it's been spun and twisted to try and get people to step down. I don't see anyone stepping down over this. In fact, I see this being out of the news cycle within, today's Tuesday, I think it'll be out of news cycle by Thursday. They can stretch it till maybe Wednesday, Thursday. The American people don't support anybody stepping down. They're not going to get anybody up in arms and in the streets. This is their first attack point to where the Democrats can have an attack and get some sound bites and have some things on later on down the road. We demand that you step. Nobody gives a damn. Quite frankly, the American people don't give a damn. I'll tell you what we give a damn about. I'll tell you what we care about, ladies and gentlemen. I'll show you some of the things that I believe that the American people care about. One of the things that I believe that they significantly care about is a lot of these executive orders that are coming out of the office of President of the United States of America. Today, Donald Trump did a blistering number of executive orders that are fantastic executive orders for the American people. But prior to getting to that, I want to bring it to your attention that there have been trillions of dollars of business coming into the United States of America. I said this yesterday. I don't know if I released the video quite yet because my sinuses have been going crazy. Has anybody else had sinus issues, or is it just me? I'm talking about snot pouring out of my nose like a faucet. Just achoo, just pouring out of my nose. Like I started talking about it, now I want to sneeze now. But nonetheless, one of the issues that I see that people are concerned about is employment and jobs. Everybody wants jobs. Nobody give a damn about all this foolishness. They don't. And I'm very happy to see that the leaders of my state, the state of Louisiana, decided to work with Donald J. Trump to bring jobs to Louisiana. I suggest this to anybody in leadership that's in a state where all these trillions and trillions of dollars are coming back in. If the blue states don't want the jobs, Louisiana will take as many factories as we can have. We have plenty of land that we can use. We will take 17 different factories, 17 different automobile companies, 17 shipbuilding companies, 17 steel manufacturers. We will take it all. I would love to see Louisiana be one of the wealthiest states in America. Because right now we are one of the poorest states in America. We have the lowest in education in the state, in the United States of America. We need jobs. And if, the way I see it is this: if your governor or your mayor or your city council are not in the business of making your life better, then they need to be voted out, Democrat or Republican. This is one of the greatest moments of revival in the United States of America, the revival of the economy of the United States of America, and it should be taken advantage of. People should be saying, hey, knock it on the door of the White House. Hey, Mr. President, you're getting all these companies to come in. Hey, man, what do we need to do to get one here and here and here? I've already got the land laid out. We'll partner with those people and give them the land free. We'll do everything we need to do to ensure that our citizens have jobs. You want to know why? Because men who work 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day don't have time to be out in the streets slinging dope, murdering, and killing people. How do I know this? Because I have gotten men from the streets jobs, and they got jobs as garbage collectors, hardcore head busters, wig splitters. And guess what? When you start working on the back of a garbage truck, just early in the morning, you ain't got no time to be running the streets. Them boys was in the house sleep. Calling, what you doing? Man, Uncle Jay, man, I'm tired. I'm in here sleep, but I'm getting paid $20-something an hour to take out trash, man. It's crazy. Good. Great. Stay out them streets. And this is the thing that disappoints me about the Democratic Party and the inner cities. Your philosophy, your religion of wokeism is destroying the constituents that voted for you. And you don't give a damn about the constituents whatsoever. You don't care enough about them to do anything to change their lives. Boy, oh boy, is it horrific and terrible. Boy, oh boy, I'm hoping that the spell over blue cities is broken. And I know we like to make fun of liberals. I do it all the time because they'll be on there crying about how since the Department of Education is closed, there won't be any more student loans. You're like, hold on, they don't take care of student loans. What the hell is wrong with you? Or how because men can't play in women's sports, that is the end of the world when there's sports directly for men. And we find it entertaining. It is very entertaining. It's funny. It's laughable. It's all the things that you want. Could you hit the like button for me, please? But at the same time, ladies and gentlemen, it's a little disheartening. It's a little disheartening because America as a whole needs to change. America as a whole needs to rise. So I'm holding out hope for blue cities that they will break the spell. One of the ones that is broken the spell is the city of Chicago. Yeah, Chicago. By the way, if you want to hear about Chicago, if you just search on this channel right here, Cable Guy, there is a 4-hour true story about the hood of Chicago that you will find highly entertaining. Highly entertaining. It is a true story. Only thing about the story that's been changed is some of the names. Say no to nuclear war. If you listen to the story, you will know exactly probably some of the people I'm talking about, some of the neighborhoods I'm talking about. You will be highly entertained. And then it's an indictment on the inner city of Chicago. For those of you who are new here, you don't know, the Dark Waters brand is synonymous with some of the best storytelling there is. And now that I have things set back up the way I want them to, people are going to get some stories at iamdarkwaters.com that they've never heard before. I won't be doing cryptid stories, but I will be doing some of the other stories because I have a plethora of stories that are movies that you should hear. These are people's life stories that are literally like movies. In fact, I'll tell you this is why I love storytelling, that I'm gonna go back to politics, because everybody has, their life is a story. And inside of that story are lessons for each and every one of us to learn. Like Art has stories, Marlene has stories, Rob has stories, Juliet has stories, Say No to Nuclear War has stories, Outlaw 13 has stories of things that have happened to him in his life. And everybody thinks that life stories have to be something spooky and scary. That is not the scariest things about life. Many times in life, the scariest things are the lessons that you learn and the consequences of not learning the lessons. The story Cable Guy, based in Chicago, is about the life that this man lived and the lessons that he learned from the diverse cultures that he came into contact with. And it is that diversity of culture. They call it diversity, equity, and inclusion. Diversity, equity, inclusion. The true diversity is the experiences of people. You can't force diversity. You can't force equity, and you can't force inclusion. Equity is based on value, and inclusion is based on value. And if you don't have diverse experiences of the people that you encounter in life, then it's very hard for you to know how to bring value to people. That is one of the biggest lies that has been going on with the Democratic Party, is that you can force diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'll tell you this: you can drop me in the middle of your organization and I will find a way to bring value. And the value that I will bring as an individual will be very strong and very significant. And you will want to include me because I'm going to bring value. And when you go down the road of DEI, what it's saying is you don't have to bring any value to the table. The reason why you guys are here is 200 of you guys here listening to me right now at 3:04 p.m. Central Time is because you find some value in what I have to say. And if people would learn how to add value to other people's lives, things would be fantastic for them. Truly add value, not extract value, but add value. That brings me to what I'm going to show you now. This is what our president is doing at this point in time, is bringing and adding value. Let me make sure that this is going to play and you can hear it. Watch this. We're going to go to Benny Johnson first. Shout out to the Benny Johnson. President Trump signs in the presidential memorandum ordering a full declassification of FBI files related to Crossfire Hurricane. The truth is coming out. Now, are they going to allow us to see everything in Crossfire Hurricane? I'm not sure.
Next, sir, we have a presidential.
Stop it. Crossfire Hurricane is how the president was targeted. Next. Russia. But we need to get to the truth and to the bottom of things. And it's important that the truth comes out. Why is it so important that the truth comes out? It's because many of the liberal talking points that are being used to divide America are based on lies. And I've said this 1,000 times. I've experienced this 1,000 times. Lies are fast. Let me make sure you guys can hear this first. Let me hit this. You tell me if you can hear.
Sir, we have a presidential memorandum for your attention. This memorandum requires the immediate declassification
Can y'all hear that?
Of all FBI files relating to the Crossfire Hurricane investigation. This was obviously one of the
instances
of the weaponization of law enforcement powers of prosecution against you and others. We believe that it's long past time for the American people to have a full and complete understanding of what exactly is in those files.
Which gives the media the right to go in and check it. You probably won't bother because you're not going to like what you see. But this was total weaponization. It's a disgrace. Should never happen in this country. But now you'll be able to see for yourselves, all declassified. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All declassified?
Yes, sir.
Everything?
The FBI file with there's a classified annex, but other than that, this we'll put everything in the public eye.
Is anybody going to look? What about you? You going to look? And frankly, the FBI should be ashamed of themselves, and so should the Department of Justice, and so should Biden. Okay.
Now, the reason why this is significant is because lies go around the world fast. Lies spread about you fast. But the significant thing about this is once the truth comes, it shatters all the lies. And so there's been so many lies told to the American people that truth has to be released into the earth, and truth has to be released to combat those lies. And what ends up happening is, well, the Bible says, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Not set you free, but it will make you free. So let's just go with the biblical definition of it. The truth makes people free. And if it's one thing that we can truly see at this point in time is that people are in bondage to lies. Think about it for a moment, ladies and gentlemen. What makes you so animated that your next door neighbor, who you've been speaking to every day for years, Miss Bob, Miss Johnson, Craig, Edward, and Edward has had a Tesla for 5 years. What would make a person all of a sudden look at Edward differently? Edward done been to the barbecues with him. Edward done sat in the backyard and smoked cigars with you. Your children have been at Edward's house when you and your wife went out to dinner, and Edward has watched your sons and daughters for you. And Edward has had a Tesla for 10 years, and then the news media tells you that Tesla owners are fascists and they support Elon Musk. And you start to hate your neighbor because they had a Tesla that they've owned for 10 damn years. What makes people behave that way? Lies. Lies makes people behave that way. Witchcraft from in the form of manipulation and lies makes people behave that way. And so the truth has to come out. And if the truth doesn't come out, then those lies, that witchcraft, that manipulation, that NLP, neuro linguistic programming, takes root and destroys people. It's why you see people behaving the way that they are behaving. And it's very easy and simple and clear to see. The next executive order that I think is phenomenal: citizenship proof for voting, funds tied to integrity of compliance, paper ballots. This is the executive order. AG to track election fraud, cracks down on late ballots, and gets rid of this Biden voter turnout executive order. You got to understand this move alone. Make sure this is on the screen where you can see it. When this hits, it's going to be so disruptive to the system of stealing the vote that you're going to discover that cities that are blue are actually red. You're going to find out that states that are blue are actually red. You will find that urban cities, I'm talking about hardcore blue strongholds, are in actuality red. Yep, you're going to find it. You're going to figure it out. And that's why this is so important, because those strongholds have to be broken.
Lastly, sir, we have an executive order for your attention on the very important subject of election integrity. We believe that this executive order is the farthest reaching executive action taken in the history of the Republic to secure our elections. Among numerous other aspects of this executive order, this is going to cut down on illegal immigrants on the voter rolls, ensure that the Department of Homeland Security and the data that they have available is being fully weaponized to ensure that illegal immigrants aren't voting. This will include a citizenship question on the federal voting form for the first time. This executive order instructs the EAC to cut federal funding to states that don't take reasonable steps to secure their election. This calls on the Department of Justice to vigorously prosecute election crimes, particularly in states that we don't believe are in compliance with federal law around election integrity. I could go on and on for a while, sir, but the compliance with national election day rules, cracking down and investigating and prosecuting foreign interference in our elections, revoking President Biden's executive order 14019, which essentially weaponized government to corrupt and pollute our election process. There's a lot in here, but we believe that these are very important steps that we need to be taking as an administration at your direction to ensure that our elections are as secure as they possibly can be.
Okay, you all understand that? Yes. Election fraud, you've heard the term. We'll end it, hopefully. At least this will go a long way toward ending it. There are other steps that we will be taking in the coming weeks, and we think we'll be able to end up getting fair elections. Perhaps some people think I shouldn't be complaining because we won in a landslide, but we got to straighten out our election. This country is so sick because of the election, the fake elections and the bad elections, and we're going to straighten it out one way or the other. And it's an honor to sign this one. To sign all of them, but to sign this one is a great honor.
Why is this significant? Why are we watching this? I'm going to tell you why we're watching this. We're watching this because, you see, when these midterm elections come around and they go to paper ballots, or they're forced to go to paper ballots, you're going to see numbers that you've never seen before. You're going to see things happen that you've never seen before, because the election fraud system has been in place for a long time. Frankly, being born and raised in New Orleans and being involved in politics in New Orleans, I can attest to you that there are certain things that have been done and can be done that will win elections. I'm sorry, it's just no way around it. And for the average person who's never had their finger into what I would like to call the dark cookie jar, because that's what politics is. It's a dark cookie jar. And inside of that jar is money If you never put your hands inside the dark cookie jar, then you don't understand these things. But if you ever got your hand in there about this deep, if you got your wrist in the jar, or if you got your forearm in the jar, then you come to understand that no, there's a lot of corruption in elections. There's a lot of corruption in elections. And then on the national level, it came out that we had voting machines that were flipping the votes while you hit the button. The very first Donald Trump election, we saw people hitting the button and they recorded it, flipping their vote. You're going to see the true reality of the United States of America when we go into the midterm elections. Now, there's thoughts that, and I think the Democratic Party is making a huge mistake with this, where they're going out to town halls that are Republican town halls with these fake protesters and people claiming to be conservatives and arguing with people. That's not going to work because they're trying to simulate an organic movement. They're saying, okay, we're going to have our own Tea Party movement. The Tea Party was organic. And because everything that the Democratic Party does is fraudulent, the more time you spend committing fraud, and this is what's going to come back to hurt them, the more time you spend committing fraud is the longer it takes for anything organic to have any type of organic uprising. And so, for example, voter fraud, where you have dead people on the voting rolls, which I believe that Elon Musk discovered when he discovered the people who were ages 100 to 350, 20 million of them. And when you subtract, and when you look at the number of votes that Joe Biden won, when they said Joe Biden had the most incredible voter turnout and got the most votes in the history of voting election, and he had 21 or maybe 20 million more votes, we found those voters. Right. The problem is because you've been so drenched in fraud, you do not know how to govern because you haven't had to govern. And that's what we're seeing right now from the Democratic Party. That's why they're in such shambles, is because they have not had to earn a vote because of the voter fraud campaigns that have been going on. So you didn't have to do anything for your constituents because you had systems put in place that didn't force you to do anything. All you had to do was show up, hit a button, and you won. And so now they have to learn how to provide and how to earn a vote, and they don't know how to earn a vote. That's why you have the extreme left of the party who's empowered, because the extreme left of the party actually believes that they're popular. They don't understand what Pelosi understands. They don't understand what Schumer understood. They don't understand what Hillary Clinton understood or Barack Hussein Obama understood. Or Jill Biden, that there was a mechanism, a machine behind them that it allowed for them to be put in office. And what you watched just now was Donald Trump signing an executive order to completely dismantle that machine. But imagine for a moment, you are one of these extreme leftist politicians like an AOC. And you came into power and people voted you in, and you're like, I got all these votes, not realizing and not completely understanding that it was a machine that got you in. And not even coming to the conclusion, the logical conclusion, that that machine is now dismantled. You had a Ferrari that you were riding in to become an elected official, and somebody just took the engine out of the trunk of out of the back of the Ferrari. Because I don't know if you ever rode in a Ferrari, the trunk is in the front, the engine is actually in the back. They've taken the engine out of it. But you're sitting there like, yeah, I'm still popular. Yeah, my principles and what I believe is still going to work. No, it's not going to work. And that is the sad reality that they're about to come into. Reality is a brick wall for the Democratic Party, and they're speeding headlong into the brick wall on 4 flat tires with the rims sparking and flames flying everywhere. The windshield is cracked. There is no rear view mirror. The side mirrors are broken, and they're just driving along like, yeah, we gonna win. And in front of them is the most massive crash dummy wall you've ever seen. And they're about to slam into the wall. They already hit the first wall. Bam. That was November 5th. Bam. Hit the wall, destroyed their car, and they're like, oh, we're gonna back up and drive around this wall. And they're just driving this raggedy car along. And they're trying to convince everybody that raggedy beat up Ferrari, which is effectively like Fred Flintstone with his feet out the bottom of the vehicle, running along with his feet like this, driving the steering wheel. They're trying to effectively make you and I and everyone else believe that it's still a Ferrari. No. You are Fred Flintstone, and in the passenger seat is Barney Rubble at this point in time. But we shall see. We shall see. This is a very significant executive order. And this had to come down the pipeline.
We're looking at one, I will tell you right now, that I think perhaps will be controversial, but not with the people. And that's sanctuary cities. We're going to end sanctuary cities for some of these jurisdictions that aren't cooperating with law enforcement. They're guarding criminals. They're taking the rights away from the citizens of this state and their city. And we're going to be ending sanctuary cities if we find it necessary to do in certain major areas. And we may just end the entire thing altogether because it's just a way of protecting criminals and nobody else is benefited by that. And for some reason, Democrats want to keep and they want to shield criminals from being sent back to their countries or being sent to prison. And in the meantime, the crime rate has gone through the roof. Under Biden, it was through the roof. It's starting to come down, but we're taking a lot of people out of here. So we may be presenting you very shortly with a executive order ending sanctuary cities.
Now, this is very significant.
We're looking at,
and I want us to back up for a second. I'm about to sneeze, guys. You got to forgive me. I'm trying to fight it off. I want us to back up for a moment because this is very significant. And I want to explain something to you. So let's look at the battle around sanctuary cities. And let's just, for a second, let's get to 100,000-foot view. Let's think about the whole battle around sanctuary cities. All right, so we got federal judges who effectively have come out and said you can't deport these gang members. You have governors like Kathy Hochul coming out and saying they're going to resist the calls for the federal government to have them deport migrants and, well, illegals. Let's not even call them migrants, illegals out of sanctuary cities. And so there are people who want to have battles. So, for example, Kathy Hochul, if Donald Trump, or not even Donald Trump, if Tom Homan was to go and arrest Kathy Hochul, he would use that as momentum to put her in a position where she's the resistance, right? And it would actually galvanize their base. That's the wrong decision to make. I put a lot of thought into this. I was like, these people need to be arrested. And when you really think about it from a 100-foot view, you could arrest them, but it's not wise to just arrest them. It's not wise to arrest them, not at this point in time, because it gives them some form of momentum. It gives them a mugshot. It gives them the video, the image of them being in handcuffs, and allows them to gel together their support. Although it's the right move to do, it's the wrong time for that move to be made. And so when you back out further to maybe 200,000 feet and you look at the scenario, the best thing to do is to destroy the foundation of it altogether. And the foundation of it is the fact that they are sanctuary cities. And when you destroy the foundation of a sanctuary city, you notice he said, I'm going to be signing an executive order. He didn't say I have. I'm going to be signing an executive order. And that's Donald Trump saying to the sanctuary city mayors, governors, hey, I'm going to get rid of this altogether. And it's a part of the order to deal. Saying, hey, I'm threatening to get rid of this altogether. And it makes sense because it's like, all right, what is the significance of sanctuary cities? It's really about the money. It's about the federal dollars that come into the city to take care of migrants. It's about the money laundering. And so he's saying, I'm going to cut off all your money that you think you got. I'm going to cut off all the access to the money that you think you got. And then I'm going to make sure that that whole protection of sanctuary cities is gone. And so that ends the argument about, oh, we're going to protect the illegals. We're going to do this. No. Your city, Chicago's no longer a sanctuary city because sanctuary cities don't exist. What are you going to do? You're going to pass a law on the state level to make it a sanctuary city? Is the state going to pay for all the illegals? If your state's going to pay for it, then you lose the election. For example, the mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson. Does anybody think that Brandon Johnson is going to win a re-election? In the chat, put a 1 if you think Brandon Johnson is going to win re-election. Put 2 if you think he's not. I can pretty much guarantee you that he's not going to win re-election. Not going to happen. It's been exposed way too much. See? It's clear they're not going to win. The damage has been done to them. So, in some cases, you can fight an enemy. In other cases, you can just remove all the mechanisms and let them destroy themselves. And in this case, I think it's the right move for Donald Trump and the Trump administration to make. Just, okay, y'all want to fight? You want to argue? I tell you what, we're going to keep on arresting people in your city. We're going to keep on exposing the fact to your constituents that you're protecting criminals, which is why he said sanctuary cities, you know, they're into protecting criminals. They're into protecting gang members. Because a lot of this is tried in a court of public opinion. If they were to arrest these people right now, there would be a call out from the media and enough of the leftists to be like, oh, they're persecuting us. They're doing this. Because you do realize the left are crybabies. Everything that they've done to conservatives, when it's done to them, it's crying and whining and moaning and blah, blah, blah. That's one of the reasons why I left the cryptic community. If you don't realize that the cryptic community is full of leftists, oh my God, socialists, communists, and leftists. And they cry and whine once they start a fight, and then they start getting beat up. It's, oh, they're attacking me. Oh, they're attacking me. It's the leftist way. And so the best thing to do with a person like that is let them bring destruction upon themselves, because their way of thinking, their way of behaving, it all equals destruction. It just takes a little bit more time. Takes a little bit more time for it to hit. And that's where the patience comes in on our part. You gotta have a little bit of patience. You know what I'm saying? You gotta have a little bit of patience. It's kind of like playing a game of chess. Sometimes you gotta hold your horses before you see the people crumble, before you see the defense crumble. And that's what Donald Trump is doing now. I know we all want to see people arrested, but it ain't going to happen that way, because it's not wise to do it that way. You lose all momentum in that manner. You lose all the momentum. And so that's what we see him doing right now. We see him saying, all right, you guys want to be clowns. You guys want to be crazy. I'm going to let you be crazy. Now, I want to touch on something else. Now, I want to touch on the fact that, and this is, people ain't gonna like this, but I'm gonna touch on it. I want to touch on the fact that in many cases, Caterpillar Eyes here gets away with saying things because she's a black woman, her skin is a shield, that really nobody should get away with saying. I recall when I first did some stories called Full Retard about people that were so obsessed with going into the woods looking for monsters that things would happen to them. I remember how people reacted to me even using that word. I don't understand why there's not a visceral reaction to this caterpillar-eyed, weave-wearing witch who is sitting there talking about the governor of Texas and talking about he's on Hot Wheels. You know, the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, is in a wheelchair. Now, when she gets attacked, she'll start crying and whining and complaining. But here she is launching attacks that, as a politician, are completely inappropriate. But listen to her.
And because we in these hot ass Texas streets, honey. Y'all know we got Governor Hot Wheels down there. Come on now. And the only thing hot about him is that he is a hot ass mess, honey. So yes.
And you see, what's significantly sad about this, what's absolutely disappointing about this is, for whatever reason, people think that this is acceptable. He thinks that this is acceptable for a politician. And this is the same woman that has plans on running for the president of the United States. Her name is in contention for president of the United States. Let's fast forward to 2027. And let's fast forward past the Democratic primary, And let's say she didn't get the selection as president, but she got selected as vice president. Would you feel comfortable with someone who talks and behaves this way representing you with, I don't know, the Prince of Saudi Arabia or the president of the Chinese Communist Party or the president of Mexico? I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I would not. I just couldn't. And people will say it's racist. People will say she's being targeted because she's a black woman. I would like to see the best of black women in the position of power. Not a Kamala Harris, not a Jasmine Crockett. I would like to see the best. If you're going to be there, you need to be the best of the best, because it's a position that requires you to be the best of the best. Yeah, Marlene says, can you imagine her talking to Putin? I cannot imagine her talking to Vladimir Putin. I cannot imagine her sitting down smelling like Bath and Body Works having a conversation with Vladimir Putin. Well, DW, you wrong for saying she smelled like Bath and Body Works. She act like she smelled like Bath and Body Works. She acts like it. And those of you know what Bath and Body Works is code for, she act like she smell like it. Not necessarily saying she does, but she acts like she smells like it. You dig? You dig? I could not see it. I would not be comfortable with it. I would feel as if my entire bloodline is in jeopardy. I wouldn't feel like your entire family's bloodline is in jeopardy. Like World War III will break out, nuclear bombs will rain down from the sky, and we all will die if that thing right there rose to power. I actually feel better about Kamala than I feel about her. And that's saying a lot. At least Kamala had some type of polishing on her, even though she couldn't talk. Even though she was clearly like a meat suit, at least she was a polished meat suit. There's no polish on this. You dig? And it's terrifying. I mean, it truly is terrifying to think that this is one of the things that the Democratic Party is offering to their constituents. Never mind Wes Moore. Wes Moore is a formidable opponent. Never mind Wes Moore. Nope. Next thing I'm going to cover. Trump administration plans to freeze family planning grants. Tens of millions of dollars in federal funding for Planned Parenthood and other groups will be cut off while the administration examines their DEI efforts. You are going to see such a outcry from Moloch himself because he can no longer get his sacrifices. Moloch is going to lose his mind. They will be in the streets marching, losing their mind, because Moloch can't get his sacrifices. You can't run your babies across the fires. Can't burn them in the fires. You're going to see it. The weirdest thing, if you look at what's happening in America from a spiritual basis, when the Free Palestinian protesters are nothing more than Dagon marching in the streets of the United States of America. When you saw at the Democratic National Convention, when you saw the bus outside, there was Moloch and Baal himself out there with their altars. When you look at the Mexican flags in the streets, if I'm not mistaken, the name is Kukulkan or Kuchikan, whatever the temple god was of the Aztecs, that, you know, they will climb up the temple and they would cut the people open, sacrifice them, and then roll their heads down the temple. You saw a parade of gods walking around, spirits walking around. You ain't gonna hear this from nobody else because people don't talk about it like this. They just be like, oh, it's this. Yeah, I know daily donkey salts. It's the same thing. But yeah, you're right. The point I'm making is this. You saw the parade during the election. You saw the parade of all the gods. Then you saw the parades of all the idols, which were when all the celebrities came out. I'm endorsing Kamala. I'm Jennifer Lopez. Kamala. I'm P. Diddy. Wait, before I get arrested, I'm endorsing Kamala. I'm Jay-Z. Wooga Jay-Z. Kamala. You saw judgment on all of them, especially those idols. I thought that was interesting. The people idols. That was very, very interesting. And so if I was you, I would prepare for what comes next, which is the marching in the streets, the losing of the minds, the gnashing of teeth over this. But it's something that needs to be done because Planned Parenthood had a very specific target from its inception. And I would have to say that they've achieved their goal. When you look around, the founders of Planned Parenthood have achieved their goal. I mean, probably in the satanic kingdom, Satan sitting there saying, yes, you've done well, my sons and daughters. Yes, you've sacrificed so many of them. Yes. Yep. They've done a lot of damage. It's why sometimes I take a break from looking at the news, because when you see it from a spiritual level, you see all these maneuvers happening and all these moves happening, and it's like, come on, man, this is wild. It's more than just reading and says Trump declassifies Crossfire Hurricane or Trump administration to freeze Planned Parenthood, because you see deeper into it. The deeper you look into it, the deeper you see the spiritual warfare that is within the nation, that's happening within the nation. But the good thing about seeing it is you see the victory that's coming down the pipeline. You really watch the victories. You watch God going from glory to glory to glory to glory. CNN, ladies and gentlemen, is coming to the conclusion that Donald J. Trump is loved by the American people. That he's loved by the American people, that the American people are supporting what he's doing. But common sense tells you that the American people are in support of cutting fraud and cutting waste, and stop sending money overseas for random foolishness. I just like the fact that they have to admit it. I like the fact that they have to swallow this whole. It's like they have to eat of the bread of sorrows. And I like to see them do it. Watch. Hopefully you like to see them eat of the bread of sorrows too.
I think sometimes it's important to do a little bit of reality check and take a little different spin at the numbers. I'm going to do that right here, because all we talk about is how unpopular Donald Trump is. But in reality, he's basically more popular than he was at any point in term number one, and more popular than he was when he won election back in November of 20.
Stop, pause. Understand that these polls that they're taking, the polls are skewed. I had somebody call me with a poll recently. See the number? I answer the number. Then we're taking a poll about in your area about how you feel about Donald J. Trump. There's a person on the phone. I said, sure, go ahead and shoot. She asked the first question. I said, I don't like how that question is phrased. Well, what do you mean? I don't like how the question was phrased, because you're trying to provoke a certain answer and you're trying to limit the polls. I said, but I'm going to tell you like this. I give him a 10 out of 10. Well, sir, 10 out of 10 is not an option. I give a 10 out of 10. Everything you're going to ask me that pertains to him, I'm going to give a 10 out of 10. So they ran through it. 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10. I was like, you're skewing your poll results. You're not going to get real results, and you're going to lose. And I explained to the young lady what I used to do for a living. And I said, this is why you get your butt whooped, because you're skewing your poll results. And as long as they're skewed, you're not going to get to the truth. So you're going to be working on false data. It's dumb to work on false data. And that's what this is going to be. But nonetheless, even with skewed polls, intentionally skewed polls, this is what we get.
2024. What are we talking about? His net favorable rating right now comes in at -4 points. Compare that to where he was when he won in November of 2024, when he was at -7 points, or March of 2017, when he was at -10 points. So when you compare Trump against himself, he's actually closer to the apex than he is to the bottom of the trough. And of course, that's so important because Donald Trump, historically speaking, has had his numbers underestimated. So I think it's very important to compare him to himself to understand he's actually more popular now than he was when he won.
Wait. He just told the truth. No. He's not. His numbers are not underestimated. You guys intentionally create the underestimation of his numbers. Then the reason why is because if the real numbers came out, then everybody will realize, wait, there's more people who think like me. There's more people who feel like this. I'm liberated. I'm free to feel the way I feel and think the way I think. And you can't have that. Because if you have that, your spell is broken. So he just told you the truth without telling you the truth. And I'm going to let the liar continue.
Because Donald Trump historically speaking, has had his numbers underestimated. So I think it's very important to compare him to himself to understand he's actually more popular now than he was when he won, or certainly where he was at this point back in his first term. The bottom line is Trump is more towards the ceiling than he is towards the floor.
So when you do that, it makes my knees hurt. So when you look at this compared to sort of,
shit, you need to do something with that head of hair.
what does it tell you about the percentage of folks that think the
And why is your
country
belly
itself,
showing?
with him at the helm,
Correct.
is on the right track?
This, I think, is rather important because, again, if the polls have historically underestimated,
There you go. Pull your shirt down. You look crazy.
What is a metric that might get at understanding at how popular he may actually be? So let's take a look at the percentage of the country who say that we're on the right track. It's actually a very high percentage when you compare it to some historical numbers. What are we talking about? According to Maris, 45% say that we're on the right track. That's the second highest that Maris has measured since 2009. How about NBC News? 44%. That's the highest since 2004.
Wow.
The bottom line is the percentage of Americans who say we're on the right track is through the roof. And if you were to compare it to when presidents have historically been reelected, of course, Trump is not constitutionally eligible to run for reelection, but I think it sort of puts it in perspective. 42% of the country says the country is on the right track when the incumbent party is reelected. And also keep in mind, back when Kamala Harris lost and the Democrats were turned out of power, only about 27 to 28% of the country said the country is on the right track. The bottom line is right now, a much higher percentage of the country says we're on the right track. And finally, Sarah Seidner, I want to put it all in the congressional generic ballot.
What about Congress?
What about Congress? Because those are the folks who are up in 2026. And take a look here. The Dems versus the Republicans on the generic congressional ballot. Back in November of 2020, when Democrats won, it was +5 Democrats. Tied in November of 2022, +1 in November of 2024 when Republicans maintain control. And then you look at March of 2025. This number looks a lot more like 2022 or 2024 when Republicans won control of Congress. The bottom line is, yes, Donald Trump's approval rating is lower than compared to a lot of his predecessors, but it's higher than compared to himself. A lot of folks say the country's on the right track, and the generic congressional ballot looks a heck of a lot.
That mental mathematical gymnastics that they have to run through to create these suppression polls is totally ridiculous. You trying to sit here and tell me that in Congress and Senate that the Democrats are +1? You out your damn mind. Name something they've done other than cry and whine and stand out there and fuss and fight and go to the USAID office and stand up there and say, we're going to go into this office and we want to see what's going on in here. We want to go into this office. What have they done? Nothing. I mean, it was nothing but cry, whine, resist, and speak of violence. You know what I'm saying? That's it. I don't see, honestly, I just don't see anything that they've accomplished for them to be +1 other than attacking Donald Trump. So you're trying to say attacking Donald Trump and Elon Musk, attacking Elon Musk had you +1 with your constituents? That's dumb. Who are you polling? I mean, who are you polling? Meanwhile, there's accurate information that came out and said in the month of February that 300,000 people switched registrations from Democrats to Republican. 300,000. And I want to say the month before that, it was another 200,000. You're losing voters every month. By the time we get to the midterms alone, they will have lost probably 2 to 3 million voters that have switched sides. Combined in the fact that you don't have your illegals that can go out and vote, combined in the fact that you don't have your 21 million people who are age 100 to 350, how in Sam hell are these polls accurate in any way, shape, or form? I mean, I'm just keeping it real with you. Is there any accuracy in what this guy is saying? But we know that there have been suppression polls. That was the first blow to the Democratic Party during this last election. They did all these suppression polls, did all this lying, and you would think that the media would just stop. Somebody says, I hope the Democrats never learn. I agree with you. Zapper. His name is Zapper, not Zapper. Zapper. And in many ways, I hope they never learn, but you got to understand, we need them to learn. But the media will not learn the lesson. And so all they're going to do is continue to destroy their credibility, a little bit of credibility that they have, which is fleeting, which is why if you would have put the numbers of trust in the media up and juxtapose it to the polls that they just showed, it would share and it will reveal something very, very significant to you. It's kind of insulting, ain't it? I mean, when you really think about it, when you look at the news and what they say, is kind of insulting. It insults your intelligence. You know, it really is insulting to your intelligence when you just look at them and listen to what they're saying. It's highly disturbing, is the way I would put it. I mean, it truly is disturbing. Where's my bookmarks? I'm almost out of time. I got a couple more things I want to touch on. I did a video on this earlier. I'm going to leave that alone for now. I talked about Jasmine Crockett. Here we go. This is what you need to understand. This is going to show you everything about the Democratic Party right now. And to be clear with you, if you happen to stumble upon this video or this stream and you sitting there saying, I can't listen to what he's saying, understand, I love you. That's why I'm sitting here telling you the truth. I love you. I don't want you to be oppressed mentally, spiritually, and physically by a bunch of lying scumbags. I want you to be free. But in order for you to be free, sometimes you got to hear the truth. And so it's our jobs to just let you hear the truth. This is the true reality of what the Democratic Party sees as their only way back into power. And I want you to listen. I want you to listen to me. Like my boy on WBOK used to say, listen to me good. I need, hold on. He tell me, James, hold on. Listen to me. Listen to me good. Listen to me good. Old pastor, listen to me good.
Okay, so like what?
Well, we could eliminate all voter registration laws. See, when Democrats get in charge, we try to protect voting rights. We don't make voting easier. Now, I'm all for voter.
I'm going to rewind that so you can hear what this bobblehead, he looks like that dude off the Eddie Murphy movie. What was the Eddie Murphy movie where Eddie Murphy was like super overweight? And then he took a pill. He took like a shot and it shrunk him down. He looks like him. What was the name of that movie? Where the chat at? What's the name of that movie where Eddie Murphy was like super overweight? And then he took the shot and he shrunk down and he went on a stage and it was like Dave Chappelle was ribbing him and he went to a comedy. What was the name of the movie with damn, was it Morbid? Was the name of the movie? Was that the name of the movie, Morbid? Somebody got to know them. Somebody put it in the chat so I can go on. I want to go on the next thing. The professor. That's it. The nutty professor. That's it. Thank you, Marlene. He looked like the damn nutty professor. This is the nutty professor talking nutty.
Okay, so like what?
Well, we could eliminate all voter registration laws. See, when Democrats get in charge, we try to protect voting rights. We don't make voting easier. Now, I'm all for voter eligibility requirements. We might disagree about what those requirements should be, but I'm going to say that like there should be an age limit to vote. I might say 16, you might say 18, but I'm not going to say 8, right? Mm-hmm. So we're going to agree that there should.
Hey man, if I ever get to the point to where I'm looking like that, y'all tell me. Y'all tell me, say, hey, you pull me to the side in the chat. Y'all say, hey, DW, you need to get your fat ass in the gym. You need to get to working out because you're looking like the nutty damn professor. If I ever grow my hair out to look like that, you pull me to the side in the chat and you say, hey, you're looking like the damn nutty professor right now. I'm gonna need you to do something about yourself because he sound like a lunatic and he talking like a lunatic. This is ridiculous.
Should be voter eligibility requirements, but once you're eligible, why do you have to pre-register?
Jesus help me, don't let me go down. Goddamn skeleton and a nutty professor sitting right next to each other. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this man. This look like Weight Watchers before and after photos on the same screen. Oh my goodness. Before and after.
Why is that even a thing? It wasn't a thing in this country at the founding. We didn't have voter pre-registration in 1787. We didn't have voter pre-registration in 1821. We only started having voter registration, generally speaking, after the Civil War. Why do you think that is? It's because a bunch of freed African slaves were migrating up north, and all of a sudden New York was like, we need some registration up in here, right? A bunch of immigrants from Europe, mainly Ireland and Italy, were coming to New York. People were like, oh, we need some registration in here. If you're eligible to vote, you should be automatically registered to vote, and that is how they do it everywhere else but us. Everywhere else but us either has automatic registration or some other form of forced registration for everybody, so that you don't have this disconnect between eligible voters and registered voters. That's the first law in the book that we could change. And it's to see how that's different than just saying we have to protect voting rights. No. We don't have to protect voting rights. We have to expand voting rights so that the 90 million people that sat on the couch and sat out this last election between democracy and fascism, so that maybe they had a little bit of an easier time to get up off the couch and come participate in the democracy.
Wow. You know, one of the most insulting things that I ever heard Democrats say is that black people can't vote because they don't have voter ID. That's one of the most insulting damn things I ever heard. You remember they would say that? Well, we need voter ID because black people don't have access to IDs. And I remember playing golf with some of my friends. I'm in the golf court. I got to go in a second. Smoking a cigar. And this dude is a judge. Criminal court judge. He says, yeah, man, you know, they trying to mess the black people over because, you know, because they want us to have voter ID. I said, Negro, are you sitting here trying to tell me that none of us out here have an ID? Is that what you're trying to tell me, Negro? And he looked back. And he said, well, what I'm saying is, I said, no, what you saying don't make no damn sense. And then I blew that smoke in his face. He got a little mad. Next time I got a ticket, and I called him. I said, man, I need to throw this ticket out. He act like he ain't gonna return my phone call. So guess what I told him? I said, I called him back. I said, hey, Negro, I'm gonna tell you something. I need you to take care of this ticket, but you know you up for re-election, right? And not only am I not gonna give you no donation for your re-election if you don't take care of this ticket, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna help the other guy that's against you. Got that message. Next day he called me back. Yeah, Jay, bro, we need to sit down and talk. Ain't nothing to talk about. Just take care of it for me. He was in his feelings. All up in his emotions. Because he was wrong. Don't make no damn sense. The most insulting thing I ever heard. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I got to go because I got an interview coming up. And I got like 5 minutes before it start. And I've been running my mouth. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I love you. I appreciate you. I thank you for joining me. I want you to hit the like button all day long. And I'll see y'all on the next one. Somebody gave me $10. Thank you for the $10. Thank you. Deuces.